Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Conflict Radio. Today is December 3rd, 2024. On the show today, we have Dani Henderson from GSIC is with us. Now, Dani Henderson, she's a former broadcaster on British television, is a creator of the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, a global gathering of extraterrestrial contact seekers, hybrids, super soldiers, and disclosing the reality of this planet and the solar system. Dani, welcome to Conflict Radio. How are you doing today? It is super early for me, so I apologize if I seem a little loopy. I'm still working on my coffee today.
Right, good. It sounds like you need a bit more coffee, darling. And why are you giggling when you're talking about GSIC, the greatest disclosure conference in the universe?
You know, we're going to talk a lot about that because, I mean, to be completely honest with you, I've got a lot of questions about things, and let's get started with GSIC. First off, how long have you been setting up this conference? How long have you been into this? I guess curious about the UFO disclosure movement. How long have you what got you interested in all of this? What set you off on this trail?
I was born awake, and that means that I was born. I remember my birth. I'm very clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, claircognizant. My entire life, I've had nothing but alien, angel, demon, otherworldly, elemental interaction. And so, again, in my book, which I know we're going to talk about, Angels, Demons, and Aliens, these are physical species that are all separate that I have had interaction with. So this isn't a new thing for me. I have been doing this my whole life, and all the years I was on television was always in the spiritual and paranormal realm. There was also a lot of live TV where the public would call me and ask me, because also as a qualified therapist and also an ordained reverend, I was able to crisscross the therapy, the spiritual, the religious, the paranormal, all of those realms, because I have literally lived this from the beginning of my incarnation here. And that's basically the bottom line. It's not a hobby for me. It certainly isn't a career. This is my actual life. And I know that I have a job to do. I'm on a mission to bring the truth of our planet and our solar system. And clearly we'll stop at nothing to bring the right people forward who have physical evidence. And that's what I base GSIC on, Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, physical evidence, because anyone can go to a conference, stand on stage and say, I'm a super soldier. I don't have any proof, but I did watch some bloke's story on YouTube and I think that's similar to mine. Therefore, no, that's not good enough. You have to be a Tony Rodriguez. You have to be a JP. You know, people, two speakers just there that I have on my on stage at one of my GSIC conferences. You got to bring proof, physical proof.
Yeah, we've had Tony Rodriguez on the show a few times now, 2 or 3 times, and he remote viewed. I actually sent him some coordinates to a secret location. I didn't tell him, and asked him what was underground there, and he totally called out every bit of detail about a portal underneath Green Mountain that JP had talked about, and they released all that information at GSIC in Denver in 2024. They had a flyover there. Tell us about it.
It was amazing. We told everybody for a year that we were going to bring spacecraft. And I'd asked Elena, do you think Thor had her Pleiadian contact in the Galactic Federation of Worlds, which is a military faction off planet that are watching us? Now, a lot of the ETs look exactly like me. They look exactly like you. Well, no one can ever see you. Just look at the camera for 1 second. Let's see your lovely face. There you go. There you go. Handsome man. There. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, so they look like us, and we have been so kidnapped and taken hostage by what people call the New Age, which really winds me up. There's no such thing as New Age. It is an orchestration of stupidity. Again, CIA, FBI, the social engineering en masse, and I'm very outspoken about it because I feel so bad for people who think they're channeling Archangel Michael and that they are the reincarnation of Jesus or Mary Magdalene, or we were told basically under the guise of a new age that we are connecting with omnipresent beings. But aliens, real physical solid aliens, they are not omnipresent angelic frequencies like the angelics. They are physical like us. If Paul Thorham, use him, this Pleiadian, fifth density being. If he got shot, God forbid, he would bleed. And this is where we have to help people accept, like I had to, that I was deluded for a lot of years, Michael. I thought I could communicate with everybody and everything and anything. And the fact is, I couldn't. What I was doing was being tricked by 2D elementals, lower vibration, astral demonics, imps. There's lots of different names for lower density beings that pretend and mask themselves as something that they're not. And unfortunately, there are people who are channeling said level of entity, and they believe they're talking to these great people, and they build careers and they're channeling away. And it's very difficult to admit that we actually have been lied to, and many of us have been wrong. And I hold my hand up to being wrong, and that's all right. You're wrong, then you can get on with your own actual evolution, can't you?
Well, the good thing about what I guess I have done is that I've had beliefs, things that I've believed in, and that of course I've been wrong about. But I mean, aren't we're never truly sure about things we believe, right?
I think we
I
are
mean,
truly strong when we
sometimes
definitely.
sometimes we are, but I mean, when
It's,
we're wrong, and that's okay.
yeah, and of course we're all wrong. We're humans. There's this thing. Oh, you're here to learn your lessons, and I think, oh, shut up. That's another bollocks thing to say. Oh, we're all here to learn. Oh, that's your karma. No, sometimes when things are going really, really wrong for you, it's because you've invited what you think are your spirit guides, and they're actually lower vibratory, resonating beings or entities that are pushing you off course, breaking
Or
up your relationships, making you argue with your kids, being a presence in the house, making sure you don't get that money, because they are also evolving, or they're supposed to be evolving. And then we go to the good guides that are potentially with some people, right, who say they have a team of guides. You hope that those guides are on a truthful vibratory matching resonance with the people that they're supposed to be in service to see the difference. The
yeah,
guides service to us. They're also evolving. That's what they're doing. We have this, again, diluted truth that actually us humans are what it's all about, our evolvement, our love, our ability. And so many of the ETs are in awe of us. We are amazing. We are so talented. And I invite people who can be truthful and honest and strip away all the nonsense to line their guides up. Even if you imagine it in your mind, imagine lining all your guides up, all of them, and fire them. And then see how people are so addicted to, oh my God, I couldn't do that. My guide is, Babaji or Jesus or, Hashem or whoever. That's ego. Then you get to go, oh my God, my ego is preventing me from growing. Let me be okay with firing all my guides, all my spirit guides, and let me trust. Number one, I won't negotiate with them. I won't emotionally negotiate with them. I'll be honest. I'll fire them. I'll take a deep breath. And then those that are truly for my highest good, for my protection, for my honoring of my soul and my soul's journey, they'll be right there. They'll be right there. But the ones that you call out, once they're seen and they're there for dishonesty, they have no way to be back in your hierarchical energy, your own personal hierarchy of self as you're going through your own soul evolution, because it's an individuated process, as we know, hopefully. Hopefully, as
all
we
right.
know.
So let me ask you this: you had a flyover at your GSIC in where was it?
September 27th,
That was in France.
Westminster, Colorado. No,
No, before
Westminster,
that.
Colorado.
Yeah, but I mean, you had one. You had one before that, didn't you? At the GSIC
No,
in.
no. Oh,
Oh,
thanks for
okay.
pointing out this. This is an incorrect. My conference is called Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection. There is a
Okay.
separate, nothing to do with me conference in France. I am not affiliated to it, but a lot of my friends who speak at my GSICs, a few of them also speak at that conference, because like you, the guy who runs that conference is smart, and he's recognized who the best speakers are in the world because he's been to my conference 3 years in a row, and 2 years in a row I let him stand on my stage. His name is Chris Hasson. He's a physicist, and he's done some support work in physics with Dan Willis, who brings the frill energy, which is going to be powering up all of our homes at some point. But no, I'm absolutely no affiliation, no partnership whatsoever. So I told everyone for a year with Elena, there were going to be spacecraft flying over our hotel on the 27th of September 2024. And that is exactly what happened. And almost 1,000 physical people, human beings, all outside. The hotel, it's a huge area. It goes down a few levels. It's shaped like a Roman amphitheater or a Greek amphitheater. Some were laying down and most were standing. And me and Elena and Dr. Michael Sala and Tony Rodriguez, we were all there. Alex was there walking Merlin. And we looked up and there they were, flying over, diving down, scooping sideways. And Michael Sala had a green laser. And he's flashing it up there, letting obviously the people see it. There they are, through a few clouds. There was a few bats. There was a couple of birds here and there. But it was unmistakable that they were solid spacecraft diving in formation and banking and just the sound of the audience. That's what always, I want to cry every time I think about it, that they were so euphoric. And there were so many skeptics, as there should be. I demand proof in this lifetime.
I mean, there was hundreds of videos posted on X when it first happened. I remember going through them all, and it was an amazing thing to watch as just somebody sitting in my living room on my phone. I can't even imagine what it was like to be there. But what surprised me the most was how silent the regular, normal, Nolans and Naps and Elizandros were about the entire thing. Why do you think that is?
Okay, well, because they don't want it out there. It's unbelievable when you see the reality of someone, when you see the truth of someone that you think is really for disclosure, but they're really not. They're really for service to self. They want to be the one. Now, I piss people off because I tell the truth. I'm here to bring the truth, and it triggers people. Sometimes you need your demons to be rattled. You need the illusions that hold you together in some kind of form to be shaken up. And some people, literally, even a couple of people who were there, who were considered disclosure experts, they denied it too. So it shows you who's who and who's in it for the money, for the career, or who's in it for the love of humanity. I'm in it for the love of humanity.
And that's a big difference.
Yes, it is the difference. But, it's like what I'm doing. I'm like making reels and I'm going, oi, Joe Rogan, oi, Piers Morgan, oi, who are the other big mouths on the planet? It's mostly men. I've also called out Roseanne Barr. I think she's fab. Candace Owen. These are the people that people are listening to. I'm like, oi, guess what happened? 1,000 people saw it. This should be world news. I am not letting it go. It wasn't just a little conference with a couple of, no, bollocks. You're not doing it. You're not shutting us down. We're all moving forward and we're doing it again and again and again. But I'm not letting the 27th September go. And there's so much violence and animosity, again, mostly from men. Well, they're not really men. They're pretend men who attack violent because it's not them. I'm saying, oi, boys, Elena Danaan showed you her ships. Show us yours. If you are the commander of all the fleets in the world, yes, sir, prove it. Prove it, boy. Say the day, the time, I'll promote it for you. I will support you. Show us your ships. Show us them. Bring them down. Bring them down low, ho, so we can see them. Bring them in a no flyover zone, a no drone fly zone. Let's go. It's very simple. And this is where we are, Michael. In this war that we're in this disclosure war between good and evil. This is where we are. Truth time, boys. Let's go. Show us your toys, or shut up and sit down. Go back and work in Tesco's or Vons. We've had enough of you. These boys get in the way.
Well, honestly, I mean, it makes me think that there's a war coming, that there's two sides of this, and that the other people are kind of on the other side. Let me run this by you. This is what I've kind of put together through this whole thing. Okay. We've got, obviously, Elena has come in and she's, she hasn't, but the Galactic Federation has come in and they've pushed out these evil entities. And I know for a fact that Lou Elizondo was sitting at a bar drunk one night talking about how the U.S. government is no longer in contact with the beings that they've been in contact with before. Now they think, and they're freaking out because they think they're talking to China and Russia now, that they've totally ignored us, but they also agree that they've been on this planet for thousands of years. He said this at a bar. I've talked to people that have been there, and he said it, and it has to do something to do with crop circles. They were giving warnings in crop circles and everything else, and they've been able to decipher these crop circles. I don't know which crop circle it was, but all I know is that they've been getting messages through crop circles. And so what I think is happening is that you have a faction of ETs that have been on this planet for thousands and thousands of years, that have been working with the deep state, working with the U.S. military, and all of a sudden they're gone. They can't get in touch with them anymore. All right. But these people
Mhm.
have come forward and they started this agenda before they pushed the ETs out of there, that, they're coming from the ground, they're coming from inner Earth, or they're coming from the oceans or wherever, and they go up to the sky and then they come down from the sky and be like, hey, we're from space. But they're not. They're from here. They've been here for a long time. And I think people like Knapp, Lou Elizondo, all of these people, they all run in the same circles. You know who they are.
Oh
That
yeah.
they're
Oh
that
yeah.
they're trying. It's a psychological operation to try to get the public on their side to actually fight the Galactic Federation when the Galactic Federation arrives. What do you think about my little
I think the elements, I agree with you. There have been reptilian species of different kinds living on this planet long before humanity was here.
yeah,
Long
yeah.
before Anunnaki came and genetically engineered, you know, Homo erectus or whatever level of potential evolution that we've been programmed to believe was conceived. But what we specifically are talking about is the Sakaar Empire from Alpha Draconis, let's say, and some of the offenders from the Orion system, the Greys, the Nebu Greys in particular. These were the ones who did the deals with the government. These are the ones who were given permission, if they gave us technology, that they could take thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the world for their genetic material. These are the ones that were working directly with governments cross-planet, who no longer are and have been removed. And there are so many people who are so upset, they're so angry, they don't want to be wrong, they don't want to give up that path. They might have just got on this path a year ago, like, no, I've got all the answers. Not one of us has every single answer, that's for sure. But I absolutely, truly believe that the Alpha Draconis, the Sakaar Empire in particular, has been removed. And because of that, look at the light in people. Those programs that were installed in us, there's no way for them to stay installed. They are deleting. We are all unraveling. As the light rises in us, and we are looking through the spell binding, because don't forget, you had the Greys and the reptilians, the Sakaar reptilians and Nebu Greys, the Mitra, others that were hurting us, that were doing deals with the government. When that layer was removed, so were the straps that bound across the planet. But they were also plugged into the Satanic occult. The Satanic occult is the 1% of people running the planet, and then their minions below them. And then we call those principalities, we call those systems, we call them quadrants or sectors or quarters, whether it's the eastern sector, the western, the north, or for the satanic part, because obviously there's structure to everything. There's operational architecture, a mechanism for everything. And so as the top layers will remove the aliens, the satanic occult, who use demons to inhabit their body, there's this disgusting element there. We can go into deeper if you want, but whatever way you want to go. So now that's all collapsing too. Plus the people the beautiful, my family, my human family on this planet, they are waking up and they are seeing, and this is where they can be really taken down the wrong road as well. Louis Elizondo, George Knapp, bloody Jeremy, bloody Corbell, I want to slap that man. They're all in these positions of power. Why? What proof have they got that they've ever in their lives had any kind of ET interaction? Where's their bloody proof? Is it just by other eyewitnesses that they've deemed to make some kind of summation as to what this actually is? Why aren't they talking to Elena Danaan, to JP, to Tony Rodriguez, to Alex Collier? Why? Because they're scared of them all, because they know they're bringing the truth. Quite simple.
So, I mean, are they part? I think they work for the CIA. I mean, what do you think? I honestly think that it's CIA.
I don't know these men personally, so it's difficult to actually comment. But it's what I do know is there is a deliberate plan to block the good people I mentioned: Elena Danaan, Alex Collier, Tony Rodriguez, JP, just for example. Because they know, and the thing is with Tony Rodriguez, he's revealing all the secret space programs that the military sold him into. That we're telling that the military are buying children that have been used up and left for dead by the Satanic occult. If they've made it out of that sex party or that sex abuse, then they're sold into the military, as Tony was. Tony's revealed names like Project Grill, Flame. He's named the airport he and other little children were held at in cots. They're so arrogant. Those beds are still there. Those mobile homes are still there on that land in California at Inukan Airport. Again, that's what I'm saying about bringing physical evidence. These, and oh my God, Elena Danaan, NASA is shit scared of Elena. But do you know what? The people that are watching your show that hate her, they don't know why they hate her. There's jealousy. She's changed. Of course she bloody changed from 3 years ago. After what that woman has witnessed, you would change as well. But you see, I call these the 2D people, and they get very upset. And I'm fine with that, because my hope is that these beloveds wake up, stop fighting and gossiping in little gangs, get on with their own healing, and what their life has been like, what their cellular memories hold, what experiences they've had in other incarnations, or potentially some, not all, in space programs, for example, So they should be bringing Elena to the front, and Michael Sala to the front, JP to the front, Tony Rodriguez to the front. It's quite simple. Brad Olson's brilliant too. I love his work. He's great. He's a great researcher. I've had him at least 2 years at a GSIC. He's a wonderful man. I saw you had him. I'm like, oi, why is Michael at Conflict Radio getting all my mates on his channel? Because he's smart.
We've been having Brad Olson on the show for about 5 years now. So we had it. We've been talking to him for a long time. We were one of the first shows to have him on when he got back from Antarctica all that great years ago. So we've been on with Brad Olson for a long time.
I love it. Yeah, no, he's
But yeah, I am snagging up all of your people since then. Like the Tony and Elena and everybody and some of these guests I see that are coming into the UK event. I'm looking at some of the speakers now. Like I said, some of them I haven't even heard of. Praveen Mahan. He's going to be at your UK event. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this event you got coming up in the UK, and give us a rundown of who some of these guests are.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm doing in 2025, because normally I do one big GSIC every year in America. And then this year, on the 27th of September at our event, during the day, I said to people, raise your hand if you flew into America for this conference. And half the room put their hand up. So I said, right, I'm bringing it to England. Because there's some people, obviously, that don't have the money. They can't fly the way to America. They can't get in. And so that's why I decided, well, then this year, I will do one in England in a wonderful seaside town called Eastbourne, East Sussex. And actually across the sea, it's only 20 minutes to France. Not that you can take a boat that way, but I mean, literally it's 20 miles. France is 20 miles away. And it'd be so nice for people to, come there. I'm having it in an ancient to Americans, but It's a theatre. It's 150 years old, an old Victorian haunted theatre with beautiful original red plush seats, and the original mechanics are there. Like I was walking around going, my God, look at the mechanical rivets and joints and the way it moves, and it's just amazing. So we're having it at the Devonshire Park Theatre, and yeah, there it's as a view from the stage. You can't really see it because you've only got less than a third of a screen there, so we can't actually see. Yeah, so it's at the theatre, and so I'm going to have Elena Danaan, Tony Rodriguez, Dr. Michael Sala, JP, me, Nikki Allen, and then Praveen Mohan. I know, because I'm very guided, each year there's a different sort of subtlety into where the energy is moving. And this year, I know it's important that we bridge together and plug in the origins of Earth, the ancient origins of Earth. And what Praveen Mohan does, he's on YouTube. He's got like 2 million subscribers. He also has his channels, because he's Indian. They are translated into Hindi, into Tamil. So he's a really big noise. And what he focuses on, that's from the stage looking out. That's Eastbourne. It's beautiful. Praveen focuses on the ancient technology that is inscribed on statues, on walls inside the ancient Hindu temples. And we must go back there. And Hinduism plays a massive part, because in the Hindu religion, and I studied Hinduism for quite some time, years ago, immersed myself in all the religions. I needed to know why. Why do they worship Shiva, Krishna, Parvati? Who are these people? What's happening? And because in all the ancient temples that are thousands and thousands of uncountable years old, you're always going to see beings that look like they're in spacesuits. There's flying craft. It's always been there. It's right there. Or jump forward to the Renaissance period. How many paintings have UFOs in them? They weren't painted in the 1920s. This is the Renaissance period.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and then one of my new speakers is JJ Ainsworth, who is a wonderful archaeologist, researcher, and one of her strengths is symbology. So like I went to watch her and her partner, Hugh Newman, who is friends with Praveen. I didn't even know that. This is how crazy. I was like, I wonder what Praveen's up to. And then I look and my God, he's with Hugh. And I'm like, oh my God, I've just secured Hugh by stalking him. I went to his conference in England. I couldn't get hold of him. I'm like, how can I get these people to come to the next GSIC? So I went a stalking. I bought a ticket. I went to their conference. But it's funny because by the time I got to their conference, I'd already managed to make contact with them. But as you know, it's not always easy to secure people, to find them.
It's not even easy to get somebody's email address sometimes. Sometimes their email address is totally hiding. You got to really, or they'll put up a contact address but it just goes to their, their helper or whatever. And, so you got to get through their initial, their walls first, to even get to them. It's
and
not
those
easy.
People, it's not, and that's a really good point, Michael, because those people that gatekeep for the people that we're trying to get hold of, some of them are very naughty, like very, very naughty.
They're handlers.
They're absolutely. And I wish some of those people would realize that, because some of them are missing out on really big information, big stories. Then they'll see it on, let's say, I don't know, Patrick Bet Davis, so PBD broadcast, and they'll be like, damn it, why didn't I hear about this? And they'll find out that actually their assistant kept it from them 6 months ago because they thought it wasn't in the interest of, humanity. We have to put up with all this, all this nonsense. But anyway, it is what it is. And invariably we get there. We just have to keep kicking indoors and trying and bringing the truth and, bringing the craft, bringing the people, having the magical experiences that nobody can deny.
Yeah, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to tell people right now on this channel that Elena's going to schedule another flyover at the UK event?
I'm going to tell people that the other day, JP confirmed that we will have more craft, and some of these craft will definitely be Nordics, and they will be also there in salute to Dr. Michael Sala. That's as much as I will say at this moment. because we don't want all the pressure on Elena. It's not fair. And
Yeah.
this again, the silly boys, the small-minded ones, the 2D people that came out after and went for her. Nobody knows what that great lady endures in her life with people who cannot handle the fact that she was the one that showed all the boys up. The militaries, the soldiers, the big men, she was the one that did it. Well, we just got tired waiting, for them to bring their ships, and they couldn't do it, and they didn't do it. So she did it for them. And it was her contact with the Galactic Federation of Worlds and the Earth military. And Michael, people like James Gilliland, I adore that man. I had him at my very first GSIC, James, and I interviewed him on my channel years ago because I wanted to know his backstory. It's a really, really good backstory. So I had him at my first conference. I wanted him to share his latest UFOs that, fly around Mount Adams. Now, there's a military base there. And as we know, half the spaceships we see in the sky are military. They're not being flown by aliens. Yeah. They're military. Now, we've got to land that point. But what Elena did, which no one else has done in the world that I've ever seen, and if somebody has, please bring real footage and bring receipts to prove it's real. She proved we're going to bring a space fleet over the top of a no flyover zone, a no drone flyover zone, and we're also going to bring a military craft, a bloody TR-3B. Oh my God, it flew so low. It flew so low. It was like 100 feet up, or maybe less. It was crazy. It flew over I lost my mind. I was screaming and jumping and leaping like a mad person because it flew over stealth. It was silent, and its lights were off. But as it was flying over the hotel, the car park lampposts were on, and there was a little bit of light beaming up, and you could just see the circular lights in each of the corners, and they were off. As soon as it flew right over the top of the crowd of the 1,000 people almost, it put its green lights. It went zoom, zoom, zoom. It was amazing. It was so amazing. To even like sitting here now, a couple of months on, I cannot believe it happened. It changed me. It changed others. And I've seen many craft, as many people have. But when you're in amongst almost 1,000 people, and they want it, and some of them are like, fuck yeah, that will never happen. And then, ta-da, boom, shakalak, it happened. Something shifts in you. It is undeniable. But of course, there's been a couple of bollock chops, like one bloke from a MUFON in France, a complete utter twat, who has been writing and going against Elena, and oh my God. And, to me, he's such a small, tiny, little nothing man, such a loser. He wasn't there, Michael. He wasn't there. Yet, as a volunteer of MUFON in France, he thinks he has the right to give his ridiculous, commentary on not being there, and is trying to say it was birds, like a loser. That's like saying, no.
It's obviously not birds. I've seen the video. It's not birds.
I mean, if you're a numbnut, name it. Name them birds, numbnuts. But listen to this. What he did as a little small person, clearly a disinformer, what he did was, A, proof is a dimwit, but to me, that's like saying, no, Kennedy wasn't shot. No. And people are like, no, I was there. Kennedy was shot in the head. No, he wasn't. No. Yeah, but you weren't there. No, it was a banana. It wasn't a gun. It was a banana. And let me prove to you how it was a banana. And then write a load of shit about why it was a banana. And then other banana brains read that and they go, yes, it was a banana. We go, yeah, but you weren't there. It was a banana.
I read the banana expert. I remember he said.
That's the level of stupid that we're at. Yeah. Anyway, he's getting a legal letter, that boy, because he just again went for Elena, trashing her books. I mean, he's obsessed with her. I've said to him, she's not going to date you, Kevin. Back down, boy. Aren't you married? What's wrong with these men? But, you insult a Frenchman in particular, they cannot take it. Do not disrespect me. They would rather fight and die if you disrespect them than actually stand as a man and stand for true disclosure. And this is what we're learning. This is what we're learning.
Yeah, it's it's crazy. I think we're supposed to. I don't know if you've paid much attention to X or anything, but I've been all over my X feed yesterday. Was that we were getting an alien invasion today? So I would
Mm.
imagine by the time this airs, the day's going to be almost over. It had to do with like 36 days or something since Trump was on Rogan or something like that. And
Oh,
it was like
God.
predicted. It was predicted by this computer program and everything else. What do you think about the whole Project Bluebeam and invasion thing? How you think the deep state's going to try to pull something like this off and then blame it on the Galactic Federation, or do you think it's something else?
No, no, no. Again, then those failures, I mean, they're so weak, they've collapsed. They're trying to still kind of orchestrate the mind control of the masses. And, because the ultimate agenda there is if they terrorize enough people thinking we're being attacked, they're going to go, oh, government, help us. We're starving. We lost all the crops in the field. And the aliens cause flooding and they collapse the physical infrastructure of the world. We need you. That was the plan. Years ago, Alex Collier, the great Andromedan contactee, he sent
Uh-huh.
me a video. He's like, oh my God, Dani, put this out. And it was of this gigantic thing in the sky, and it looked like a jumping Jesus. It was massive. It was massive. And it was like leaping around, and it had a light for a face, and it had this fake cloak on. It was so funny. But they were trying to just see how the people do it. What they'll do is like those fake aliens in the jungle of Peru, totally fake. They'll do stuff like that around the world. But the Westerners, we're waking up. We're like, hold on a ding dong dang minute. Hang on. So no, I don't believe that they will risk a Project Bluebeam pretend invasion in the sophisticated areas of the Western world. I don't. There's too
Yeah.
many of us that know it now, and we're calling it out. So
They have to go to where there's no cameras or something like that, where they could put jetpacks on soldiers like they did in Peru. I it was jetpacks, I think, is what it was in Peru there.
yeah, you know what else is really worrying me? Because the half of the UFOs we think we're looking at are actually military transport, reverse engineered anti-gravity machinery. They are going to put good men and women in spacecraft, and they're going to shoot them down. And they're going to say it was aliens. And we know that's what the militaries are prepared to do, because they sacrifice soldiers every day, not only in, unwinnable wars across the world. And it's true. I hope no one's offended by this. And if you are, oh, well, because I'm telling the truth. And we only have to look at how we treat our veterans, leaving them to rot on the side of the road. They've got horrific PTSD, schizophrenia, the things these poor people have been through. And all the governments, all of them, over all of the decades, which means it's every single party. Okay, and that's another mistake we go, it's the Republicans, oh, stop it, yawn. It is everyone, it's all of them. They leave our brothers and our sisters to rot. So I am worried. I'm making that public too. I'm worried that
Yeah,
they're going to
that's
sacrifice.
always something that bothers me, especially the last 4 years, and I don't understand how we have homeless veterans on the streets of America while we're putting up illegal migrants in hotels and giving them thousands of dollars a month in not even food stamps, but just cash,
Yeah,
to do whatever they
right.
want. And apparently it's not the US government doing it, it's the UN. The UN's paying for all of this. I mean, we're
Well,
funding the UN, of course, but it's, that way, like I'm gonna pay Peter to, pay Paul or, whatever, how that stuff works. We've all done that, right? Like rob Peter to
yeah,
pay Paul. That's
I know. And then they make everybody in the world. It does annoy me how everyone goes, tax paying dollars. Why do we always focus on that? Tax is illegal for a start. None of us should be paying tax ever. But
it's
of
not
course we have
taxpayer
to.
dollars anyway, it's just printed money.
Right, right. And then the United Nations, when people take time to don't look at Wikipedia or wicked pedophile, as I call it. It is a totally interfered with, corrupt system. Look at the actual history in old books and old documents. What are the principles that the United Nations was formed upon? And it's devastating. 1,000 points of light. It is absolutely devastating. It's a gut punch. Believe me, I've been through all of this. And then because we just assume, because we're programmed and we're schooled and we're groomed to believe that UN's in our best interest. There are great people that work for the UN. I wanted to for years, but like I wanted to become an astrophysicist. But once I'd worked already inside the space industry for years, I was the person that recruited the top engineers, the top scientists, whether it was propulsion, payload, telemetry, composites, refraction, reflection. I mean, mechanics. I was that person. In Europe, I had the top space agency. That was me on my own, and I did that. And it's great because I know now why. Again, now that I'm in this, great disclosure space, I can pull on all of my years of knowledge in the space industry and the technology that we have, and who was in charge and who does what. And I can remember, this is in the 90s, who blocked what, who did what. So all the way back then, I knew that they were stopping information coming out, that like NASA, who treat us like dimwits, they were going to try and keep us in first grade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, let me ask you this, because now this is the part where I get confused as far as what's going on. You just said that uh, the military is going to do this, the military is going to do that, but wasn't it the military that sent the TR-3B to your flyover in Denver?
Yeah, but there's a
How?
huge
What's
difference.
the no? And this is what I'm going to want you to explain. What's the difference between the military that runs the TR-3Bs and that are working with the Galactic Federation, and the deep state military that is setting, that's setting us up, that's going to be doing these horrible things? What's the difference? Are we talking about the difference between the Space Force and the CIA military? What is the CIA military? The Air Force? Or I'm I'm totally lost as far as how that works. Is our military not all one organization?
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
The American military is not one single organization. It is a military industrial complex,
Yeah.
sectioned up like the Satanic section up the quadrants on the planet. You have a shadow military. They are run and processed by other people who are non-military in some regards, but they're the big money earners. They're like the three men at the very top to top to top of everything. So we have different factors and factions of military. What we did on the night of our conference, September 27th, 2024, that TR3B that came out was an Earth Alliance, a
Yeah.
White House, a Space Force, Space Command part from, I believe it was from the Cheyenne Mountain military base that was quite nearby. So this
Okay.
was approved.
So the deep state doesn't have control over Cheyenne Mountain? I know that Trump locked it down in 2020.
I'm not saying that, and I also don't know that, and I don't
Yeah.
have access to that information. All I can give you is exactly what I do know to be true, what I believe to be true. Yeah, but it's like even JP, JP's gone on missions, and obviously we're friends off camera. He's gone off missions, and it's really disturbed me how he's been treated, or he's been, had to take something that's made him sick, or and how he's just been tested, and he's spoken about these experiments on Dr. Michael Sala's program. And I'm like phoning him up and saying, I'm really angry about that. Like, how did that happen to you? Like, because even within that environment, when he's got people who are high up in the military saying, JP, you get the green light, go put this out there. You get the green light to speak at Dr. Sala's channel. You get the green light to stand on stage at Dani Henderson's GSIC. You know what I mean? And yet also within that, there are still other people blocking it, harming it, trying to take it down, cancelling it. They are fighting incessantly. And the other thing, when people think that there's nothing spiritual in the military, if people understood, and I'll give you a family name again to bring proof to everybody, because that's what we got to do now. Don't tell a story, back it up and bring evidence. So the military globally is absolutely packed with witches and warlocks. They are
Oh, yeah.
spelling, They are doing rituals, and they have infiltrated every aspect because their agenda is to control. So, of course, they're going to be in every system. Again, guys, if you've never heard this before, I know it's jarring, but it is what it is. We've got no more time to get the tissues out and hold hands. It's like, no, it's go time. It's go time, which is a Morlocks. And I'll tell you a family name, Collins. Now, there is a man, these are old tapes from the 1970s. His name was John Collins, from the Collins family, and they came over on, I don't know whether it was the Mayflower, one of these big grand ships, as a very wealthy family into America and infiltrated within. It was planned into the military. John Collins changed his name to John Todd, Todd. Now, you go back and listen. It's all online. You can find them easily. His tapes, his recordings of who he was as a Collins and what the Collins family did. Obviously, not everyone named Collins. You know how some people go, oh my God, that's my family name. They were a certain family, a branch of the Collins, so that you don't get upset out there. And it's proven. I mean, he talks about how the witches and warlocks will sing over an album that's going out. So they curse it and spell on it. So you're taking that into your home. They will curse and spell over different individuals, generals they want to remove, commanders. They will block and stop using magic people moving forward. There's so many ways to prove that too. The demonic attacks. Like there was one on Tucker Carlson a few weeks ago. It was a demonic attack. It was black magic sent at him. He wakes up at night. He gets up. He's freaked out. Something's on him. He's all scratched up. It scared him so much. He's returned to Christianity. And that was a direct demonic witch warlock attack. Warlocks are the men and the witches are the women. Of course, most people know that. Some don't know the difference. So I never assume.
All right. Let me run this one by it too, just to kind of emphasize why I'm so a little bit confused sometimes about what's going on with the military and the Galactic Federation. I live in Huntsville, Alabama, and here we have.
Oh.
I mean, this is the deep state military industrial complex. No joke, right here, Huntsville, Alabama, Raytheon, Boeing, Marshall Space Flight Center, Operation Paperclip, that all happened right here. All of this is still going on, with the research and development of missile technology and ICBM technology and everything else that's done here. But yet underneath Green Mountain, we have a Nordic UFO space portal with a possible Stargate down there. And how is it that the U.S. military industrial complex can pretty much have their hub of operations right on top of a Nordic Stargate?
Well, how can we possibly have other Stargates or ancient ley line crossovers with a bloody church built on top? It's the same thing. A lot of these things were set up energetically also before the reptilians and the Greys left as well. Again, we tend to use our 3D minds to try and work everything out, but we're actually 4 and 5D beings. So when we start to let go of all the lower vibratory things that we've been schooled and programmed in, we can start to think in different and bigger and wider ways. These stargates and portals that exist, some of them are actually portable. Can you imagine? Some are actually portable. You can move them.
Yeah.
And some of them are recent to the planet. But again, not all Nordic extraterrestrial personnel or people or humanity, because they're humans. I mean, they call themselves humans too. They're not all good. There are some bad bastards out there, Nordics. There are some bad Syrians, some bad Vegans. Not all of the Arcturians. It is ridiculous to assume, because we've been told a little bit of information about Pleiadians, Taygeta, Era, all these different places in the solar system, that they're inhabited by really good people stroke ETs. So you have negative Nordics that can show up looking absolutely beautiful, and they can be soulless, they can be unkind, they can be working for the Earth military and receiving rewards backwards and forwards. We must never assume that everybody is good. I certainly don't. I want to believe everyone is good. That's always my first, like, oh, they're so lovely, they're so nice. And then I go, bloody buggering hell. I just had a feeling and I ignored it. I didn't want to come off like a cow, but if I'd only listened, that's how it is, right? Frequency never lies.
It truly is. And one of the things that I'm telling everybody this just to help with my research on it. Tony Rodriguez, he when he was remote viewing Green Mountain, came up with something called Project Alpine and Operation Keyhole. And I think that those are two things that we don't really know what they are yet, but we should probably start digging into and see if we can find anything about Project Alpine and Operation Keyhole. They're probably important in some way, and I'm just throwing it out there so and people that listen to this channel already know. So if anybody has any information on those two issues, please send me an email, info@conflictradio.net. You could be anonymous if you want to be. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your book, because I don't want to keep you too long. I've already kept you over our designated time, so I appreciate you being here. I want to talk about your book, and I specifically want to talk about the Angel of Death. I've heard you talk about how there's more than one Angel of Death, and like
Yes.
how many. So are they fifth dimensional beings? Are they aliens? Do they have craft? Are they really what would you consider an angel to be?
An angel is a higher supra consciousness, and most of them have not had a physical life on the planet in this 3D density. There are different layers and levels of angelic presence, frequency, subtlety, but they are very different from the alien frequencies, and very different again from the demonic frequencies. And yet we know that some ETs and some demonics will pretend to be each other, and they will also pretend to be angelic. The two examples I give in my book, Angels, Demons, and Aliens, of me meeting angels of death. The first one was in Coronado, California. Interesting. That island is an island off of San Diego, downtown San Diego, California. I lived there for 7 years.
I've been there.
Yeah, half that island is a nuclear naval base with all manner of war machine flying around, submarines. I mean, you see the soldiers running on the beach every morning. And yes, I'd be there.
Looking for a nuclear vessel.
Yeah.
Vessel. Chekhov in Star Trek 4.
Oh my God. Yeah. So that was Coronado. And the time I was married, my husband had prostate cancer, and he was just taking forever to find a surgeon. We were going around and we were interviewing surgeons, because I would say, we've got to, let's find the right one. Let's find his frequency. Let's, so you feel safe. Because he was so scared, my ex-husband. He was so terrified to have his prostate removed. It's a very unpleasant thing for a man, because obviously it's up inside the anus, and the biopsy he had done was like a stapler, up the anus, and a stapler on very, very painful. It traumatized him,
Yeah.
And it was a real shame, and we don't have to have that. I met a man years ago who has the cure. All they've got to do is harvest the cells of a man's urine, one simple test to get the PSI level of the prostate. They don't need to puncture into but that's again people blocking and making sure humanity suffers. But that's a whole other subject.
It's our fake medical system too that is all about just making money. We've seen that with COVID.
100%. So we went to sleep, and we had this gigantic 4-poster bed. It was amazing. It was really high as well, like high off the ground. And I remember opening my eyes, and to the left of me, seeing a disheveled looking being against the wall. Now, bear in mind, since as long as I've got memory, I've always seen all manner of being. aliens, demons, angels, imps, you know, you name it, I've seen it. And I was so angry, and it's always telepathic. So I woke up, I see this being against the wall. I know instantly it's the angel of death. And I'm like, not on my watch. And I lunge at it because I have zero fear. I lunge at it, I punch it as hard as I could. And as I made contact with its energy, it was the most beautiful, feminine, soft, just there at this tempo, just very gentle. And I sit back, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I said, why are you here? And she said, he's at choice. And then she disappeared, like just kind of just disintegrated into the wall. And she was wearing all these different levels and layers of silk, like black and gray and a little bit of dirty cream. And it was all like a silken, you know, covering dress or headdress and whatever. Anyway, I woke him up and I said to him gently, oh my God, I said, the angel of death was here. And he's like, oh no. I went, no. I said, she was beautiful. She was so beautiful. And she had a warning for you. And she said, you are at choice. You need to make a decision, mate, because you're dicing with your life here. Well, the next day we literally went up to LA. We'd already had that planned and met with a lovely Iranian surgeon. And he said to my ex-husband, if I have you on my table, I treat you like my brother. And when we got in the car, I'm like, it's him, you know, let's go with him. And it was a very successful, he was very lucky to get out of that. Yeah. So that was like the first time. And I was like, bloody hell, the angel of death is not what Hollywood have lied to us about. Anyway, the next time I was on the train going up to London, reading a psychic book of this lovely medium I love, and all of a sudden feeling this presence looming, like pressing on me, leaning over. And so I mean, sometimes you can see it with your, obviously clairvoyantly, like I'm seeing you. Other times you go inside to the feeling of it, and it creates an image, like a photograph in your mind. That is the clairsentient ability to physically see what was pressing on me, because it was real. I could feel it. It was in my field. And so I look inside, and there's this gigantic man in a long black coat, and his head looked like a pumpkin. It was so weird. And he's leaning over me. He's reading my book. He's literally reading my book. And I went, oh my God, is the train going to crash? And he said, no. I said, are you on the train with someone? He said, yes. I said, how long will you be with them? And he said, a week. Oof. And I was so pleased that the train wasn't going to crash, and that was my angel of death, you know, because I know, and again, my own beautiful husband that dropped dead of a heart attack very violently, you know, a week before he was saying to me, I can feel someone with me. I feel someone with me, you know. We had a couple of warnings. It was awful, but you don't want to know. You never want to see that coming. But anyway,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the second angel of death I witnessed. And so now I know, because I've experienced it, that's what they are. They're different males and females. They look different, and sometimes they're there with you to guide you on your last days, to get your paperwork together, or try and encourage you to say words to someone that you've fallen out with, or get you to take that trip you never took, or whatever. There's many different reasons. Or like the female one with my ex-husband was to help him make a decision, you know, because you know, the cells in the prostate were at the point of bleeding. The cancer was in the state of bleeding out into the rest of his body, you know?
Yeah. So do you think that everybody gets an angel of death for like a week or two before they pass?
Well, there's different thinkings on that. I don't know really, have I determined a final decision on this? I think there are different, there are some people that say that we get a birth angel and a death angel. So when we come in, we're assigned to an angelic that's there as part of the birth process, no matter how we're born. And there are people that say there is a death angel that will be there guiding us into the next realm. So I don't know if it's the same angel. I feel it's not, but that's just what I feel. But at this stage, I don't have proof. I've got proof that what they are, because I've seen it for myself and experienced it. But so I wouldn't want to give a definite and influence someone's own thinking and own spiritual path. But it's definitely something for people to kind of feel into for themselves. So I think there are two. I think there is a birth and a death angel. That's what I think.
Yeah, you actually just reminded me of something, that one of the main reasons I reached out to you to get you on the show back when I first started looking into you. I was talking to somebody about something, and one of the first memories I have is discovering my arm in my mother's womb. And then I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
being born. And
Ah,
I was talking about it on my show, and somebody had come in the comments and said, talk to Dani Henderson. She remembers being born as well. Is that true?
yes. Oh my
Like,
God.
let's
Yes.
talk about that for a minute, because what does that mean?
Well, it means that you have an ability to recall. So a recall in the mind, in the memory. See, we're again programmed, or you don't remember anything until 5 or 6. It's not true. Some of us remember, and we're supposed to remember. But look at the work that you and I do today. You know, in order for us to be credible in doing the work we're doing, which is disclosing disclosure. You know, we're either
Uh-huh.
physically part of it, like I am, with my own ET confirmation, my own experiences of disclosure, or you're on a journey, a spiritual journey, you're taking a lot of people along with you and you're reporting, on disclosure. But you have got to have your own set of true experiences. Otherwise, who the hell are you? You know what I mean? So, and
Yeah.
what star sign? I don't do star. What month are you born? You Aquarius?
May. I'm a Gemini.
Okay. Mm. Yes, sometimes you get this. I'm Aquarius, or February 9th. And so I know there's a lot of
So
really.
Gemini and Aquarius are the most compatible of all the signs out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, with the memory and the instant recall, and going back, what you can do is, if you are aware that you, Michael, have the memory of being aware of your arm in the womb,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
means that wasn't just a 1 second snapshot. That means that actually, if you sit with that and you breathe in and you take yourself down into a meditative state, let's say, that you
Uh-huh.
are going to recall, you're going to recall a lot more. I bet if you sat there with that, you would feel some pressure. You would hear her heartbeat. You would be aware of other noises in your ear. You might even be aware of perceiving outside of her womb, because of course babies hear everything. In vitro, we hear everything. So how lovely is that? You might be able to take your memories from it being in vitro and going even further back and asking to be shown your conception, the moment of conception, for example. It's really fascinating. You might even
Have you
be
been
able to
able
go
to do
down.
that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You go even further down the timeline, your
Uh-huh.
energetic frequency timeline, and you can trace back to right before you came into the soul agreement to be the soul that would go into that physical vessel, that little tiny human boy. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
I actually remember being a kid laying in bed, remembering my past life when I was like a year, 2 years old. Like I was I think I was a soldier in a war. I know that. I know that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
like a a past war. I think it was World War II, honestly. Because I
Hmm.
remember, I specifically remember marching. I remember marching, and how is a 2-year-old gonna have a memory of, you know what I mean? Like, I remember where I was. I remember where I lived. I remember looking over at the. I remember looking over at the nightlight in the wall. You know what I mean? I know how old I was when I lived at this house. You know what I mean? Like, so how is a 2-year-old gonna be laying in bed remembering being a soldier? Off what? Off of watching TV, Like
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to kind of broaden this kind of subject a little bit more, if you'd like, because what you're saying there is obviously it's true. You're remembering, and you don't need to explain to a single person because they don't matter. Nobody matters at all. Their opinions have nothing to do with you, as you know. But you're traveling, traversing, remembering, recognizing, recalling the reality of your life. And it reminds me of a book I read years ago. And the book is called The Children Time Forgot. And this book, I read it in my 20s. This book shared so many stories of little kids who recall their past lives, and they can go to a town. They've told their mum it's a white door and there's a clock tower in the town center and round the corner and there's Mrs. So-and-so, and these provable aspects of children's past lives have been proven. Well, one night I'm in bed. I was living in Hertfordshire in England, and I was reading this book and I fell asleep reading it. And I wake up and I am in a heavenly realm. And the reason I know this is because if and when I lucid dream, meaning if I wake up in a dream and I go, oh my God, am I in a dream? What I do, and I've done since I was a little girl, is I pinch myself as hard as I can. And if I can feel it, obviously I'm awake. And if I can't feel it, I'm in a lucid dream, so that I have awareness. So I wake up inside a lucid dream, and I am walking through a field, and the grass was long and it was a deep, deep emerald green. And I could hear music, and I realized it's me moving through the grass. And as I'm moving through the grass, there's music. The grass is musical. It was unbelievable. And then I know I'm in heaven, or I'm in the next realm, or I'm in paradise, whatever you want to call it, walking along, go over a little wooden bridge, come down the other side, and there's an old man and an old lady standing on the other side of the bridge. And they're looking at me. And I kind of thought I recognized the lady, very tall, very elegant, beautiful cheekbones, grey hair in a bun. And the older man, I definitely recognized him. And I remember them smiling at me. And I remember saying to myself, I'm going to remember this. And so I walked backwards over the bridge, and I'm waving at them. And the next thing, Michael, I literally woke my physical sleeping self up, coming back into my body. Like I literally, right? Yeah, slipped back into my body and then woke up like, oh my God, and sat up thinking, oh, that was heaven. I was in heaven. Anyway, the next week I went to visit my parents, and we had this old red suitcase full of all ancient photographs from like my parents' parents and grandparents. And my mum's on the floor going through them coincidentally. And then I see the old man and the old lady. I'm like, oh my God, they were in my dream. I went to heaven. They were in my dream. She said, well, that's my great grandma and my great grandpa. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. How this works, the different ways that we can connect, we can recall, we can prove, we can have these experiences. It's so exciting.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of, I tell people, I tell my wife, and she's like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You're dreaming, blah blah blah." That nobody remembers when they're born, or you don't remember discovering your arm. You gotta be thinking. I'm like, no, I literally remember discovering my arm. Like, it's hard to explain. It really is. But yeah, it's just one of those weird things, like you're like, oh, what the hell is this? Look at this over here. It's like connected to me. I can move this.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird. Uh,
Yeah.
okay. The children time forgot. I think I was reading something about one of the boys in that was a fighter pilot, and he was able to nail down exactly where he died and everything
Yeah.
else, the name and everything, and it was
Yeah.
it was all dead on. It was all dead
Yeah.
on. Interesting stuff. It really is.
Yeah, it just proves that we've been here before, most of us, and that we can have this recall, and that the recalling of the memory is said to be lodged largely in the cells, in the cellular memory. And all it will take is a smell, a sound, a visual, and that can get triggered. And we're like, oh my God, I remember this, I remember this, I remember this, or you can have past life regression. Like I remember the first time I had past life regression, that it was horrible. I was saw myself in France as a French older lady, and there was a baby in a basket by the bed, and I knew the baby had died, and I was grieving it, and it was awful. And when I came out of it, I could feel all the pain of that. I was like, oh God, I don't want to go back into that. That's terrible. And then I had other experiences too. But one important thing to raise, it does make me sad for people when they're absolutely convinced that they're all Napoleon or Queen Victoria or Jesus. They have to have this really big role in Atlantis, being one of the scientists. I mean, how many bloody scientists can you have? You know, and not making fun of them, just like wishing that we didn't all want to be the most famous person of the timeline that we're investigating as a potential past life, you know, reincarnation. You know, I remember one lifetime in London where I was a little beggar girl, 4 years old, dying. And I remember the cold. I remember being no shoes on in winter in London, trying to sell matches and just dying and people stepping over me. I remember that. Oh, look, so I
Yeah.
can feel the chill in my bones. You know,
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't Marie Antoinette. You know, I was just some little beggar girl who died at 4, grateful to be dead, to tell you the truth, at that stage. So I wish people could just not be so full of the ego, you know, and understand what ego is. Like, I'm a very passionate person. I'm a very honest person. You know, I don't have a single person owning me, threatening me that I pay any attention to. I don't respect authority at all. Clearly, you know, and I am my own individual soul and voice on this planet. I don't have a husband. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have anyone like trying to rein me in. You know, I'm all go, go, go. And there's something so wonderful about that. And telling the truth with an urgency as I do, and putting people in their place as I will, you know, naughty people that think they can threaten and, you know, no, I'm not having it. I'm not allowing it. And so people sometimes they get really triggered by that, which is fine because I do rattle their demons anyway. But that's an opportunity to help them want to do some healing on themselves. But a lot of people really do misunderstand me, and that's all right too. You know, it does hurt sometimes if someone's like, I fucking hate Dani Henderson. She's such a this and that. You know, but there's nothing I can do about it, and there's nothing I will do about it because I care and I love humanity too much. And it's really quite that simple at the end of the day.
Yeah, it really is. How important do you think dreams are?
I think sometimes I remember reading years ago when I was studying dream psychology, because I'm a therapist and that was part of our training, understanding if somebody is deluded or, you know, and how to break down and are they living in a dream state. So it was all part of the study. And I remember looking at that and somebody saying that sometimes we are recalling things that happened in the day that we still haven't processed. Therefore, they play out, you know, in our mind. I think that can be partially true. I think that sometimes they are very fortuitous in giving us hints of something that's happening in front of us. I think sometimes they're so random. I think sometimes there's no real definitive explanation, you know, because how could there be? How many different types of dreams? Lucid dreams, nightmares, happy dreams, sad dreams, sex dreams, flying dreams, drowning dreams. I mean, and what do they all mean? You know, like the other day I was driving in the car with a friend and turned a corner in the country lane and a pigeon flew into my car and it hit the window and I saw it and it saw me and it looked so tired and its eye was big but old, you know, and it was a nanosecond. And I remember thinking, oh, darling, please don't hit my car. But it did. It hit my car. But what it communicated in that moment was, I'm so tired. I don't have the energy to lift above your car. And so my car took it out. It just, boom, it was gone. You
Oh,
know, on
that's
the
kind of sad, actually.
it was sad, but it was
Yeah.
also beautiful because it was so quick. And this bird's energy, you know, everything talks, everything communicates. And
Yeah.
it was like, I'm tired, I'm ready, I'm tired. I was like, oh, bloody hell, thanks very much, because that's not the first time that's happened. Thanks very much for choosing me. But at least you're out of your misery. And then I said to my friend, I said, pull up on your phone. What does it mean if a bird hits your car? And she said, oh, bloody hell, why does it have to mean anything? You know what I mean? So, and she's right. You know, we've got these books. What does it mean when? What does it mean if? And, you know, we can go a little bit too far down that conditioned new age, you know, program that we all, most of us, many of us fell for, you know,
Yeah.
50s
I
through the 60s. And
I had an owl crash into my windshield once, in the middle of the
Oh,
night when I was driving down, an old country road back when I was 19, and I'm surprised I didn't crash. It scared the crap out of me, but yeah, it was an owl. I hit an owl, like,
wow. Wow.
so I've been there, done that. Yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's amazing.
an owl. Now, the reason why I ask you about the dreams is I had a dream once that I was being carried across this river by this older woman who was, I think it was my spirit guide or something, somebody, very powerful. And she was rowing me across the river over the other side, and we're having a conversation. But what stuck out to me was just she told me, she's like, well, here you are, you're supposed to be this great powerful soul, and you're such an asshole. And I remember thinking, I am an asshole. Like, maybe I should try not to be such an asshole. Like I don't know. Like, there's so much about me that I haven't quite figured out yet. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I
Yeah.
should lighten up a little bit.
Well, I think that there's a fine line there. Well, two things with the lady that was carrying you. That is so beautiful that you got a message that was actually needed. Like you are man enough to say, actually, I was being an asshole. Time for change. Time for change. And it's important. These messages come, these dreams come, and then often they'll be doubled up or backed up. So, what did you do at that moment then? When you woke up and you realized that you were carried by a guide or a presence, an angelic, and she was telling you the truth that probably most people wouldn't to your face, and you
I
were in
I
a vulnerable position.
I told my wife about it. She said, "Well, you are an asshole."
There you go. There you go. Double confirmation.
you know,
Then
uh,
you make changes, right?
huh?
Then you make
Would you say?
changes.
Well, it's a process. I would imagine that there's still moments where I'm an asshole, and it's just sometimes you can't help it.
Hmm.
Sometimes all you have to do to be an asshole is be honest.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
not being an
just
arsehole. Because the response of that is what the arsehole name calling is, right? When you're saying it, you're meaning it intentionally to help, to support, but the delivery has triggered something in someone which elicits a response to stimuli, which then consequently ends up being you being called an arsehole. But is that fair? Is that really fair? Probably not. No.
yeah,
People don't want to change. A lot of people are so resistant. They don't want to be wrong. Goodness, they do not want to be wrong. That's a tough
yeah.
one for a lot of people.
Let me run this one by you. I had gotten a Lemurian seed crystal, a good
Mm,
sized one. Like probably the size of a like a baseball. And I was sleeping with it. I was trying to sleep with it. I was trying to fall asleep while I was holding it. You know what I mean? To try to have some decent dreams or whatever. And I had this dream that the crystal had like evaporated and went into my body. All right.
mm.
And now I can't find the crystal.
Yeah, well, I
I
have a
have you
Lemurian.
ever heard of anything like that?
Yes, I have. I also have Lemurian, a beautiful Lemurian. I've had it for years. I often sleep with it. I also sleep with a big pyramid shape labradorite. And I'll tell you an amazing story directly linked to an absorption of a crystal. This is true story. There was a baby in intensive care in England. This is years ago. And the baby was so premature. There was absolutely nothing that could be done. And the doctors literally said to the mom and dad, say goodbye, say goodbye.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. And then a nurse came forward and said, please, can I try something? And the parents are like, anything, anything. And this nurse put a ton of little tiny pink rose quartz crystals around the outside of the baby girl. And everyone sat praying and vigil over this little one. And in the morning, all all of the crystals had dissolved to dust, to fairy dust, and that baby thrived. That little girl thrived. So yes, I have heard. Yes, and it can happen. And it does happen. And sometimes, how many people get a particular crystal or maybe a pendulum and it vanishes, it's disappeared. You're like, I had it in the bed with me, I had it beside me. Sometimes these things come and they literally are like just vanished. Or sometimes I do believe they absorb into the field, into our field, which is potentially what could have happened with you and the Lemurian. And the Lemurian crystal that you speak of, the one with the ridges, right?
Uh-huh.
The ridges, yeah. Well, it is said that they are the main crystals on the planet that record information. They've already been programmed from millennia, from the time of Lemuria. And those of us Lemurians, I am one. I know that I was in Lemuria. I know it as much as I know I was in the Pleiades, And again, don't anyone be impressed, because you probably were too, I just know I wasn't the queen of the universe. Sorry to
Yeah.
disappoint. But
That's
so many of
always a
us are,
bummer. Right?
ah, we're all made of stardust. It's
We are.
proven.
Yeah.
So therefore, we are part of the physicality that surrounds us. Obviously, it's only when people get a religion in the way that doesn't let them breathe out of the prison of that, self-imposed prison.
Yeah,
Which
we just
again,
had Karina on talking about stuff like that too.
I love Karina Fataki. She's very special. She's very brave. I mean, the subject matter, decoding the Bible, the things that she reveals, she's braver than me.
You
That
know,
lady, she's
what she tells us really is that people that don't like religion, they and people that don't believe in the whole religious aspect of things, you need to maybe separate Jesus from religion. If you could separate Jesus from religion and like actually follow what he's actually been teaching and what he taught, like I think we go a long way.
Yeah, but the people that enforce religion, like I was forced with Pentecostal, evangelical, which is insanity on steroids. Like, you children, you're sinners. Shut up, are we sinners? How dare anyone call a newborn baby a sinner? How despicable. Shame on you. Sit down. Like, that is intolerable to raise. That's how I was raised. And then seeing Jesus hanging on the cross, I was traumatized. Traumatized. There's a dead man hanging on a cross as a child. Do we ever take a moment to imagine what that does to a baby? No, we don't. We're too selfish and we're too used to them projecting what we were trained to say, So
Yeah.
anyway, I remember at 7 physically meeting Jesus. It's in my book. It's in my book, and it's the story of is it the two queens? There were these two women at my church who were just the goddess heads. They were the most important women at church. I couldn't wait to tell them that I saw Jesus and the angels in my bedroom physically. He came to me. He smiled at me. I thought they'd be delighted. They pinched me. One of them picked me up with her thumbs under I was a skinny kid. I was so skinny. Picked me up and then looked at me and said, "You evil child," and then dropped me on the floor, on a tile floor. These are supposed to be amazing adults. I've just told them I've seen Jesus and the angels. Why are they physically hurting me?
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, well, I managed to escape religion at 15, 16. It's chapter 6, Jesus, Angels, and the Two Queens at Church. That's what it's called. That's the chapter in my book. Yeah, and again, the book, the amount of experience I've had, with aliens, demons and aliens, real ones, never imagined and always physical, which is important to precise that point. People read the book and they go, "Oh my God, I had the same experience," or "I had a partial," or "I didn't know what this meant. I read your book, Dani. Now I get it." So it's really useful for helping people like on their journey, as well. But Jesus was a real man. I only know that because I physically met him. I completely dispel and rebuke the things I was taught in church, none of it helped me. And the women that were supposed to be adults and training me, well, I just told you what they were like. And he was a real man, and he practiced love, and he would kick your ass if he needed to. And I believe that of him too. He was a loving being, you know.
Yeah.
And then what the Prophet Muhammad comes along, he's like, well, that Jesus gig, yeah, that's all right. And he was going up and down the Sahara Desert with his dad. He fell in love with a much older woman. It's all recorded. Fell in love with a much older woman, married her. She had a bit of money. Then they were themselves selling silks on the Silk Road on the Sahara Desert. And years later, he goes up a mountain. He comes back down. He says he met with the Archangel Gibral, and Archangel Gabriel. Interesting, a Christian icon, an archangel from the Christian religion, and the Muslim, the Islam, preachings are based upon Archangel Gabriel, or Gibral, or the way they pronounce it differently. And he came down with the Quran written. Now, there's nothing offensive in that. I've just described two basic stories of two legendary men who we're told, are the gods of the world, and the differences in the stories. And the Prophet Muhammad, who created Islam, was extremely opposite to the teachings of Jesus, whereas Jesus, we're told, was like peaceful, gentle. I mean, the Prophet Muhammad will kick your ass hard, and ruled by the sword. Again, that is not offensive. That is what I've read. That is what I've studied when I've taken time to study the religions, as I mentioned to you earlier. Because I just wanted to know, Michael, like, what's it all about? Why are there millions of people dying every year in the name of religion? Why are they killing each other? I don't get it. Because they want their God to be the real God. It's quite simple. They want their gang, their relations, their culture, their cult, their whatever to be the one. Well, it's never going to work, because it doesn't work. It's never worked. Having one Godhead, one leader has never worked.
So I mean, that does it for us. We're running out of time. Do you have anything you want to ask me, or you said you wanted to ask me some questions earlier, but we kind of got to chat and we just kind of ran off with a conversation there, didn't we?
I know. It's good though. It's good. Communication is really important, and keeping it moving and at a certain pace. Although not obviously planned, but giving as much information as you can in a short amount of time is important. But yeah, I see that you're on a spiritual journey yourself. Will you just look at the camera one more time so we can see your lovely face? There you go. So I often wonder what you actually look like. I've seen you interview, like I say, Tony and Elena. And have you had Dr. Michael Sala on yet? I can't remember.
I've had him on a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. He's so lovely. I wanted to ask you, really, your YouTube channel, it looks small. There's only a few videos there. And but you've got like more, 50,000 plus subs.
You have to hit the live tab. We do so many live shows. If you hit the videos tab, you won't get very many videos at all.
I looked at that too, but I could only trace you back to like the last sort of couple of years. And I thought, wow, that's built. But I get a sense that you've been doing this longer than 2 years.
Yeah. Well, season 1, there's a lot in the members section, and I made a lot just kind of go away because the audio wasn't good, when I first started out and stuff like that. So it's we've been around a while. It's just a lot of the earlier stuff is in the members area.
Right. And what was your kind of desire to create this channel?
Honestly, it was I've always loved listening to podcasts and trying to get my own doing my own research, trying to get my own information, but I never liked any of the questions that people were asking. I wanted to get that person on and ask my own questions, and a lot of times I would reach out to a guest or somebody that somebody had and ask them my own questions and stuff like that. And sometimes they get back to you and sometimes they don't. And finally I was just like, why don't I just start my own show? So that's what we did.
Yeah.
And I asked my own questions, because I'm curious about my own things. And I was doing it for me. I didn't care who was listening or not. I just started up a podcast just to have an excuse to talk to people that I found interesting.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's the truth. that you just told the truth. And again, when people want to really feel into how do we know when someone's telling the truth, you've got to read with your heart. Like, read here, feel the energy frequency here. And if people want to rewind a bit, go back a bit on this, you can really link into Michael's frequency, and you can feel, especially when the bit where you said that you just really wanted to know, because you're on such a mission to know. And I love that about you. And you've got a really nice, relaxed way. You're like me. You just who you are. There's no airs and graces. You don't worry about not smoking a fag, or you're going to look however you want to look in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is what it is. Like, I mean, it's conflict radio. And season 2, I used to just do all audio. It was all audio. It was just audio, conflict radio. It was just all audio. The guests, all of like 180, 200 episodes we did before a guest even came on and started running their own camera. Like they would just be their audio too. And it was mostly just a podcast, just like on Apple iTunes and stuff. And then when we started up on YouTube, we got a lot of people over from that. And then season 2, when I started season 2, because I took a year off. I mean, I call it season 1 and season 2, but it was really like it was the end of my show. I was done. I wasn't going to come back. And then when I did come back and I decided to call it season 2, all of the guests started showing up with a camera, and I'd be over there with like, my little picture or, blank side or whatever. And I'm like, crap, I got to hook a camera up or something. So I started to do that. So maybe when I come back with season 3, I actually have to invest in a camera. This camera up here is actually from my son's PlayStation 2. It's probably like 15 years old. And it's the quality is not very good. It's but it's what I have. And if I put it up here, my face is my face takes up that whole box. So I was like, I'll just stick it over here and give people something to look at besides just a picture. I used to have the camera going out the window, just showing like the woods, because I have woods out here. And finally I'd put this on. So man, we'll do something when I come back for season 3. I'll get a new camera. And
it's a 10 quid. It's a tenner, for a little thing to stick over the computer.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I'm just not. I'm never in a hurry with anything, and I mean, if people don't want to listen, they don't need to listen. I'm not here for anybody. I'm here for myself. So
yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know. And I know that you've been uncovering your own, again, memories, being a baby, and you've been feeling that you were in maybe some kind of military role unconsciously.
Yeah, that hasn't been easy. Yeah, that's like, partly, I'm taking a little bit of a break and gotta, get a grip again. So,
Well,
re Tony really, I wasn't expecting that from Tony. He hit me with some stuff, and if somebody goes back and you can listen in season 1, I talk about, how I was abducted, with who was I talking to? Oh, I can't think of his name. I was talking to a guest. I guess I can mention it when in the chat room when you're listening to this. I'll go ahead and have the answer, and I'm typing it right now. But I was talking to him, and I was telling him all about my experiences and everything else. So, and then when I talked to Tony about it, he just started connecting the dots with me, and it just blew me away. I was talking to Tony with like tears in my eyes, like you know what I mean? Like I was like, holy shit, I mean, I couldn't even talk to him. He derailed the entire the entire show. It hit home so hard. Yeah, so that's been a little, and now that, if I think about it and I start uh uh having recalled, it's not pleasant stuff.
No. And again, it's difficult to know what is a real memory and what is a screen memory. And also sometimes, as a therapist, I've dealt with a lot of survivors of different elements of trauma and abuse and PTSD. And sometimes we will focus on an area because it's better to believe that that's what happened than actually look at what actually happened. You have to remember the whole way through that we're taking care of an inner child. And that inner child is going to be, what we call emotionally paralyzed, frozen in trauma, emotionally stunted. And what we're trying to do is give that child inside of us enough love and make it feel safe. And that's the important thing, to move forward as the adult we are now,
Yeah.
parent that inner child as we are uncovering the things that we know don't make sense to us. And sometimes when we get to the end of that journey of discovery, we find that we weren't in a secret space program. We were in some kind of other, let's say, could be MK Ultra. It is so beyond explanation. Even in, I think, an hour show, that you could explain to people succinctly the difference between Project Montauk, Project Monarch, MK Ultra, as a mass, the different experiments that they do. Largely, children at school, the clever children are selected, the bright, gifted children. Then I've come
Yeah.
to learn the ones in the middle, not so much. And then they go the other way. They'll go with autistic, they'll go with children with what they call special needs, because there's an element there that can be utilized in various ways. So there's at two ends of the spectrum in the kind of children that are targeted. And as we know, Tony Wood-Riggs, for example, was in the gifted program. And many of the people that come with their SSP stories, a lot of them came out of some kind of gifted acknowledgement as a child. Again, it's difficult. I have sympathy for everyone, even though I do beat a few of them up, because some of them are just outright bullshitters. But it's clear that they've been all through some kind of trauma, and that's never anything to mock. But they have to get a hold of their their own responsibility of healing self, and figuring out what is real and what's fantasy. Because some of these people have followings and they're influencing people who are also unhealed with open wounds, and it can get really messy. It does worry me. It can get so messy. So that's why I just focus myself on my work. It's only right now physical proof and evidence. And for me, that's the best way I can do my bit for disclosure and humanity.
Yeah, the funny thing is that I can remember so much from when I was younger and up until I was like 2 years old, and then from 2 years old to 4 years old, there's nothing. And
Mm.
and but the first memory I have when I was 4 years old is literally waking up on my kitchen floor with blood all over my face because my stepfather had hit me with a 2x4.
God.
And so I well, not my father, my stepfather. I don't know if I said that. Just want to
You said
clarify.
stepfather.
But um but whatever had happened in that 2 years leading up to that, I don't remember at all. But then at 4 years old, but then after that, I remember, I'm back to remembering everything again. So there's like 2 years that I don't remember anything. And I
Mm.
don't know, like if it was a blow to the head that that made me forget all those 2 years, or maybe there was 2 years there of a lot of that, or you know what I mean? So that's what I'm taking this time off coming up for, between seasons 2 and season 3, is I'm gonna focus on what happened during that time and see if I can have recall on that. And then once I get that behind me, then I can move on with the other
Mm.
recall. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like I have to do that first. So that's what
Yeah.
we're gonna do.
Bless your heart. And thank goodness for someone like Tony Wood-Riggs, who, because he's been through so much himself, has ways to help people uncover their memories and create their timeline and just help them anchor in to their own healing, without the need of a therapist. Not saying that that's not important. For some it is, but at least you got someone that you trust, that moved you to emotion, that is telling the truth and has his own path to help people. So that's something really special
Yeah,
for
well,
you
he called it all out, and he didn't know that, he didn't know any of that stuff about me, and he called it all out. He called it all out. The timeline all fits and everything. And
Mm.
like I said, that memory, like I remember waking up and there's blood everywhere, and my mother's freaking out, holding me, and yelling at him, and you know what I mean? Like that was traumatic. But for like 2 years before that, there's nothing. I have nothing.
Mm-mm.
But then I can
Mm-mm.
remember everything from like two to even discovering my arm in the womb. And then I got
Yeah.
like 2 years of absolute nothing from like 2 to
Mhm.
4. So
I mean,
that's
maybe
what I'm going to try to work on.
I mean, the 2 years before you took the beating to the head, that man obviously entered your life, and
Yeah.
then where your dad was obviously removed. So that could have been just the emotional paralysis in, my God, my dad has left. This other man is here. What's happening? My security is gone. And then with the whack to the head, it was like bringing back into, awareness, because obviously
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
obviously.
and before that, the last memory I have when I was 2 was the last day I was with my real father before he had abandoned us. I was in a van. We were driving around in a van, together, and I was thirsty, and he had an empty Pepsi can on the floor, so he pulled over to the side of the road and filled it up out of a puddle and gave it to me to drink, because I was crying, I was thirsty,
Oh,
you
God.
know. So that's what I drank, and then that was the last time, I had seen him, and then 2 years later, the next memory. So there's a lot that I'm missing there. So I
Yeah.
think that's why I have, and I've told people on this channel before, that's where the my BPD issues come from. So if I
Hmm.
can put together that 2 years, that'll come a long way in helping my BPD stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a
Bless your
journey,
heart.
It's
You
it's a
know,
it's a
I admire you, Michael. Honestly, it takes courage you know, to admit, and to share. And I think this is also part of the work that you're here to do,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
help
It's how I'm
fight.
healing as well. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And it's
exactly
very
it.
honest, very raw. And I know you're going to be careful with who you get to coach you and who you get to work with you on a therapy level. I know you're going to take care of yourself in that.
Yeah, it's a process. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that's gonna do it for us. It's gonna wrap it up. You wanna tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, I'm galacticspiritualinformers.com. That's the website. It's got everything on it. It's got, all the links to other social medias, Galactic Spiritual Informers. There's my name, Dani Henderson. That's how you spell it. GSIC is Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection. Again, Galactic Spiritual Informers. You can get my book to help you on your journey, Angels, Demons, and Aliens, on Amazon. Sorry about that. Amazon. And you can come to a conference, see the greatest speakers in disclosure. The first one coming up is in England in May 2025, on May 10th and 11th in Eastbourne, Sussex. And we're definitely expecting craft to turn up on the night of May 10th, 2025. That has also been confirmed with JP, that some of the Nordic craft will be there. We're not putting all of the pressure on Elena Danaan, which is great. And then we're also having a second conference in America, because I normally always have a big GSIC conference in America. That will be, we hope, in Nashville, September 2025, but I will let you know. But for all details to get tickets for England, it is galacticspiritualinformers.com. That's it.
All right, and all the links down below in the description, guys. They're all down there. The YouTube channel, Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection website. Everything will be down in the description box below. And just let everybody know, making a commitment. Conflict Radio will be at the GSIC conference in Nashville or another location,
Charlotte.
as long as it's not too far from there. I think you had mentioned where. I'm not. I don't want to say it.
Yeah, no, we're looking at Nashville definitely, and Charlotte's a close number 2. We're just got to check a couple of things out first. It's going to be
All right.
what's best for people, because I'm trying to make
Yeah.
it much cheaper this year. Much cheaper. So, yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to make it cheaper, Charlotte might be cheaper. I don't know. It's not. It's not closer to me, but either way,
Yeah.
Charlotte or Nashville, Conflict Radio will be there. We're gonna make it happen. Uh, we're not going to be doing anything other than just being a normal person in attendance, and we look forward to promoting this and meeting everybody, meeting you, Dani, and everybody else that you have show up for that. Definitely appreciate you coming on Conflict Radio. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Michael. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and good luck to you and your healing, darling. And thank you to
Yeah.
everybody watching. Appreciate your time to listen to me and more of my experiences too. Very much. Thank you.
All right. And hang on a second, Danny. Don't go anywhere. I want to talk to you here in a second, just as soon as we wrap up. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, guys. It really helps us with the algorithm. Comment on the video if you can make it to Nashville or Charlotte, which would be a better location for you. That'd be real interesting to see what kind of reactions we get to what would be better for you guys, Charlotte or Nashville. Go ahead and comment in the box down below. And did you just want to say something there? It looks like you wanted to say something.
No, I'm great. I'm just excited. I get such a thrill every time someone talks about GSIC. I'm like, yay! I can't wait. I'm going to England to America this year. It's like huge. It's so exciting, and I just can't wait. That haven't been able to get to one. Hopefully we'll get to see them this year. Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for us, guys. Batten down the hatches until next time. We have one more episode left in season 2. We're going to be talking next week with Laura Eisenhower. That's going to be our season finale. Until next time, everybody, batten down the hatches and be safe.